life.
Celebrating America, 1 hour at a time. This is the Chris Berg Show.
I want you to imagine for a moment, just in your own head, that's the beauty of radio, right? This imagery, mental theater. I want you to imagine for a moment, if I were to ask you, when you think of a domestic terrorist, you can just imagine for a moment what a domestic terrorist looks like to you. What comes to your mind? Who do you think of when you think of a domestic terrorist? Build that visual in your mind right now. Then what if I said this to you? What if I told you that the actual National School Board Association is now suggesting to the Department of Justice that you could be labeled as a domestic terrorist? It is absolutely one of the most chilling letters I've ever read, and it's from the National School Board Association. We're going to dive in this today because they're suggesting that people that are going to these school board meetings could potentially be labeled as domestic terrorists. Now, why is this so important? And we're going to dive into this. I'll get into the details, but it's very important because this also ties into, again, we talk about here on the Chris Berg Show that we are doing everything that you and I together can do. United we stand, right? Everything that we can do together to preserve and protect our freedoms here in America. So as I go through this letter today, I'm going to show you how it also ties into not just your First Amendment right, but also your Second Amendment right. Very, very important. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Chris Berg Show. I'm Chris Berg. Please call into the show at any time. Number to do so, 701-271-1100. Again, 701-271-1100. As you know, I love to hear your points of view. That's what makes the show so much fun for you and for me. And I really want to dive right in because as I'm learning, we only have an hour on this show and it flies by. I mean, yesterday was the introductory of the Chris Berg Show. And I got to tell you what, we got done with the hour. I was like, wait, is this thing over already? So please join us any way you can. You can hit us up. We're live streaming on several different social media platforms. You've got the facebook.com/Chris Berg Show. There's Twitter, there's YouTube. And again, of course, call into the show at any time. So with that being said, I do want to dive in because we're going to focus on education today. I shared with some of you, but a couple weeks ago, I was up in Watford City. I spoke at the North Dakota Petroleum Council annual meeting. And one of the things that I shared with the people there is I said, hey, what if, because we're going through this workforce challenge here in North Dakota, really across the country, which, by the way, who's the genius that said, yeah, let's put in vaccine mandates as we're going through a workforce shortage? But that's a topic for another day. So what I suggested at the petroleum conference, I said, hey, what if, because we all see what's happening on the restrictions of our freedoms right now, especially across the country. So what if North Dakota branded itself as the freest state in the nation? Could that potentially attract people and families to our great state to help mitigate this workforce challenge? And what was amazing, folks, here I am talking about liberty and freedom, what's in your DNA and my DNA as Americans. And after the speech, I had 4 people walk up to me and essentially say to me this. They said, hey, Chris, speaking about being the freest state in the nation, I got 2 words for you. So I'm thinking freest state in the nation, 2 words. What are you going to lay on me, right? They walk up to me, Chris, I got 2 words for you. School choice. So we're going to dive into that today as well. We got a special guest joining us later in the show at the bottom of the hour to talk more about that, what you and I can do to liberate our children. Now, let's get into this National School Board Association letter. And I rarely read stuff on this show, but this letter from a school board association is so chilling that I'm going to read parts of it word for word, just so you can understand the impact of what these people are communicating. So let's start at the beginning. It says, Dear Mr. President, this is addressed to the President of the United States, President-elect Joe Biden. So it says, Dear Mr. President, America's public schools and its education leaders are under an immediate threat. Now, many of you I know have seen the school board meetings that are taking place across the country. I personally have not seen violence at these meetings, maybe because I've been focused more on meetings around the Midwest. There are some stories in here that suggest that there were some assaults and things of that nature at these school board meetings. I'll talk more about that in a moment. I want to be crystal clear before I dive into much of this conversation today, especially this letter. Violence and anger doesn't work. We talked about this yesterday, right? If you're going to go to these meetings, lead with love, speak from a place of peace, because what happens if that you can show up, anger is not an effective communication tool, right? If I come at you and I'm speaking to you from a place of anger, your ears shut off. But if I can show up and communicate from a place of love and peace and empathy, now what happens, and this is what we're going to be talking about often on the show here, what happens is that people's ears start to open up and they can now hear you, and hopefully your voice, like my voice, is milk and honey to your ears. That's what I want. I want my voice to be milk and honey to your ears. And what happens then is once you start to open up their ears, guess what else starts to open up? Their hearts and their minds. And that's the battle and the game that we're in, folks. Yes, we can get angry, but if you're not going to go and show up at these events and these meetings and have conversations with people and do it from love and peace and begin to change hearts and minds of the people that actually have the votes, then what's the point? So please never show up at these events. And I'm not saying anybody here has, but never show up at these events angry, trying to use, violence, none of that stuff. It's not effective. It does not get your outcome, which I'm hoping the outcome is to ensure that our kids have the greatest education on the planet. So back to this letter. It says the public schools, its education leaders are under an immediate threat. The National School Board Association respectfully asks for federal law enforcement and other assistance to deal with the growing number of threats of violence and acts of intimidation occurring across the nation. Now, here's my question for you. Again, number to call into the show, 701-271-1100, 701-271-1100. But my question to you is that this is a local school board. One of the things we often hear that's so great about the most local politics is the best, right? School boards are very, very local. So you got to ask yourself, why? Why are school boards calling on the DOJ and the FBI to investigate this? Very important point that I want you to consider as we continue to have this conversation. Now, I'm going to go down a little bit more in this letter. It says this: coupled with attacks against school board members and educators for approving policies for masks to protect the health and safety of students and school employees, many public school officials are also facing physical threats because of propaganda. I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to get to the propaganda piece. So it says here that there's attacks against school board members because of what has been implemented with the masks. More on this in a moment, but quickly, I want to share with you, remember, is there science that indisputably demonstrates that masks are effective at mitigating COVID-19 in schools? The answer is no. In fact, if anything, folks, what's happening in Minnesota right now, listen to this. Children's Minnesota to open an inpatient psychiatric unit in response to the rising levels of pediatric depression, anxiety, and other mental disorders that have been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. In Montana, the Montana Health and Human Services Department has made wearing masks a parental choice. Seems kind of like a no-brainer, doesn't it? The reason they're doing that is because it says here within the Montana Department of Health and Human Services, mask wearing has been shown to cause some children to suffer mental and emotional distress and issues. Mask wearing can also cause or aggravate physical conditions in some children, including interference when it comes to asthma, respiratory conditions. And it says here the scientific literature has identified with respect to pediatrics, diseases or predispositions where masking may present significant risks, including respiratory diseases, cardiopulmonary diseases, neuromuscular diseases, and epilepsy. So there's some science from the Montana Department of Health and Human Services, folks. Very important. Now, it also says this. They're also asking for the feds to look into the threats because of the propaganda purporting the false inclusion of critical race theory within classroom instruction and curriculum. This propaganda continues despite the fact that critical race theory is not taught in public schools. Well, a couple things that are important to note: that if it wasn't for you, you, the people that they're beginning to label, which I'll get into, as domestic terrorists, guess what? CRT would be in the K through 12 curriculum. It's only because of you, and I've got it here in my hands, that the Secretary of Education had to eventually say, because remember, President Biden in April came out with a grant system for the K through 12 schools that said, hey, guess what? K through 12 schools, I'm Joe Biden. I'm President-select Joe Biden. If you want to go ahead and put critical race theory in your schools, we're going to give you more federal dollars. That's what President Joe Biden and the administration wanted to do, but because of you saying, whoa, 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 President-select Joe Biden administration, let's put a little pause on this. Because of you stepping up and attending these school board meetings, speaking out, sharing your point of view, you may remember Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona actually had to postpone and put a pause on this grant program because you said, nada, no más, no quiero, which means I don't want. So why are they involving the feds? I'm going to get to that when we come back from this very short break, because there's some pieces to this letter, folks, that are absolutely chilling, that they're not only trying to control what you're able to say and not say at these meetings, but also then extrapolate out to potentially impact your Second Amendment rights. I'll explain to you how and why here in a moment. Again, number to call into the show, 701-271-1100, 701-271-1100. You're listening to The Chris Berg Show.
Hello, this is Matt Lehman and Mike Walski with Fargo Roofing and Siding.
We are here to help you with all your commercial and residential roofing, siding, and window needs.
We will approach every job with what we call Fargo values of honesty, integrity, accountability, and strong work ethic. Whether it's insurance-related repairs, remodeling, or new construction projects, our team is here to help.
Premium quality, premium service, Fargo values, Fargo Roofing and Siding.
Joe Biden is seeking one of the biggest tax increases in history. Now, experts warn these massive tax increases on capital gains and businesses will kill jobs, wreck the economy, and sink the stock market. All this week, Sean Spicer and Lindsay Keith are on Newsmax warning of Biden's tax madness in their special reports. Each night, Spicer and company talk to the experts on what's coming and how you can protect your hard-earned money. Plus, Sean Spicer reveals new details of his upcoming book, Radical Nation. In Radical Nation, you'll find the shocking truth of the Biden-Harris agenda. So tune in to Spicer and Company every evening on Newsmax, America's channel for real news. Newsmax is on every major cable system. Just check your cable guide. Or get Newsmax on most streaming services or download the free smartphone app now. That's great. Newsmax covers the real big stories you need to know. Get Sean Spicer's Radical Nation and make sure you watch Spicer and Company on Newsmax tonight. And don't forget to download the free smartphone app now. You'll love it.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. I'm a better neighbor because my service has taught me how important it is to be a team player. My training helps me in my classes when I give attention to detail to the task at hand. My service also allows me to be there for my community in ways others can't. I help my hometown recover after nature strikes. My service in the Army National Guard allows me to keep my country and those I care about safe from threats. I also work with a network of professionals that help me succeed. Also, the Army National Guard's education benefits make getting a higher education a reality. Being an Army National Guard soldier makes living and serving in my community more rewarding every day. Learn more about how you too can live and serve part-time close to home by visiting NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the North Dakota Army National Guard. Aired by the North Dakota Broadcasters Association at this station.
For decades, Nodak Insurance Company has been serving our state's residents in good times and challenging times. We come together for the greater good, from simple acts of kindness to company-wide efforts that make a difference in our community. It's who we are, rooted in North Dakota and ready to serve when it matters most. Nodak Insurance Company, agents with answers.
We don't need no education. We dark sarcasm in the classroom.
Welcome back to the Chris Berg Show. Today we are talking education. Yes, we don't need no thought control. I'm sharing with you today, to set the stage here, an absolutely chilling letter from the National School Board Association. Because as you know, if you've been watching the news, many of you are going out and you're voicing your opinion, your points of view at these school board association meetings, at these school board meetings, to let them know that, hey, no, we are not going to implement CRT. No, I want to have a parental choice about my kids wearing a mask or not, because it's not for everybody. And there's not conclusive evidence that shows that masks are effectively mitigating COVID-19. So I want to get back into this letter for you because of what it says. As I mentioned at the top of the show, why would the School Board Association be asking the federal government to look into incidents that could be happening in local municipalities? Let me get through some of this quickly because it becomes very, very important to your ability to be a free person, number one, and secondly, to your Second Amendment right. So here's what it says as well. It says, in addition, again, this is addressed to President Joe Biden. In addition, we applaud your actions to restore resources to school districts that have not yet received their education stabilization funding through basically the CARES Act grant program for coronavirus recovery efforts, including the use of face masks and other precautions. I wanted to share this with you because I have not found the specific data or information explicitly, but there are definitely inferences within information out there that when school boards and school districts implement mask policies, they get more federal funding. If somebody out there can show me that explicitly, that would be fantastic so we can prove that. Now, it goes on to say this, and listen closely, folks. Again, this is the School Board Association speaking to our federal government, and they say now, I'm quoting, now we ask that the federal government investigate, intercept, and prevent the current threats and acts of violence against our public school officials through existing statutes, executive authority, interagency, and intergovernmental task forces, and other extraordinary measures to ensure the safety of our children and educators. Notice how they frame that. It's brilliant. We need to intercept. We need to use extraordinary measures to ensure the safety of our children. How do you say no to that? Here's how you say no to it, folks. Here's why this is important. It goes on to say this. This is very important. Please listen closely. As these acts of malice, violence, and threats against public school officials have increased, again, no violence, folks, when you go to these meetings. Speak with love and peace. It says this, as they have increased, the classification of these heinous actions could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism and hate crimes. As such, the National School Board Association requests a joint expedited review by the U.S. Department of Justice, Education, and Homeland Security, along with the appropriate training, coordination, investigations, and enforcement mechanisms from the FBI, including any technical assistance necessary from state and local coordination. Now, they go into talk about the Gun-Free School Zones Act and the Patriot Act. So again, when someone begins to label you as a domestic terrorist, folks, it puts you in a whole different realm of the federal government. This is why they are proposing and putting this letter in writing, because let me share this with you. This is so critically important as you watch the strategy that is being laid out here. I talked about this back in January after the January 6th event that took place at the Capitol, because from then they wanted to start to change the domestic terrorism legislation. So I just told you within this letter from a National School Board Association, they included the Patriot Act in regards to, and I'm quoting, to domestic terrorism. Why does that matter to you? Because the Patriot Act defines domestic terrorism as a person who engages in an act dangerous to human life. Very broad definition. For a purpose. For a purpose. Why? And I'm reading here now, because I don't want to get too technical, but I want you to understand the game plan here that's being taken place right in front of our eyes, folks. Section 806 of the Patriot Act, underneath domestic terrorism, seizure of assets could result in the civil seizure of persons' assets without a prior hearing, no due process, and without them ever being convicted of a crime. No due process, because when you put it in the federal jurisdiction, it gives the federal government, the FBI, way more power if they can spread this way big brush that you are a domestic terrorist. And now they can seize your assets without a prior hearing and without being convicted of a crime. How many of you out there would consider your firearm an asset? How many of you out there that own firearms would consider your firearms an asset? This is why I am encouraging you. I'm begging you. Please communicate, lead with love and with peace. One more thing I want to share, and we're going to get to a phone call. The civil asset forfeiture, again, this is all from the Patriot Act. The civil asset forfeiture power of the United States government is awesome, is what this article says. The government can seize and or freeze the assets on the mere assertion that there is probable cause to believe that the assets were involved in domestic terrorism. The assets are seized before a person is given a hearing and often without notice. In order to permanently forfeit the assets, the government must go before a court, but at a civil hearing. And the government is only required to prove that the assets were involved in terrorism by a preponderance of the evidence. Because it's a civil proceeding, the person is not entitled to be represented by an attorney by public expense. This is a strategy. You think it's an accident that you now have got a whistleblower coming out from Facebook suggesting that, hey, we need to get the Ministry of Truth put in place. And then you've got the National School Board Association writing a letter to President Joe Biden in regards to asking the federal government, the DOJ, the FBI to investigate incidents within a local school board? This is no joke. This is no joke. Myron, we're going to get to your phone call. We've got a very special guest coming up here in just a moment because, again, one of the things that we've got to do here as I'm reading and sharing this with you folks is we need to take back our kids and our education. How do you do that? One strategy could be school choice. There's already people popping up across the country. You may remember President Trump put together what's called the 1776 Commission, right? We were going to talk about civics and true history and the greatness, the celebration of America, which is what the Chris Berg Show is all about. We are here to celebrate America, not denigrate America, but celebrate America. And if we can take the money out of the school system, in other words, the property taxes, and create a school choice voucher program, does that give you some leverage and some power? Of course it does. You know how this game works. Follow the money. So we want to talk about, when we come back, a special guest from the North Dakota Conservative Advocates. She's the president. She had a great meeting this morning that I was a part of. She's putting together an education committee and looking at North Dakota education. And how do we begin to take it back and empower parents and students to have the best education on the planet? Love to hear from you. Maya, we're going to get your phone call when we come back. Number 701-271-1100. Again, 701-271-1100. Thank you for being with me this afternoon because you're listening to The Chris Berg Show.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks rebounded after a strong service sector reading and as tech stocks bounced back from steep declines on Monday. Energy stocks also gained as oil prices climb higher. The Dow rising 312 points, the Nasdaq up 178, S&P 500 up 45. And the U.S. services sector, where most Americans work, grew in September. The Institute for Supply Management's monthly survey rose from August amid strong demand and despite widespread supply chain issues and labor shortages. And Kellogg's cereal plants in the U.S. are coming to a halt as around 1,400 workers go on strike. Currently, it's not clear how much supply of its iconic brands will be disrupted. The strike includes plants in Omaha, Nebraska, Battle Creek, Michigan, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Memphis, Tennessee. The union and Kellogg have been at a deadlock at the bargaining table for more than a year. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Cleanliness and safety are essential to the success of any business. That's why Cintas has introduced our Total Clean program, a one-of-a-kind service that includes scheduled deliveries of essential cleaning supplies, hygienically cleaned uniforms, and on-site sanitizer and disinfectant services to help eliminate germs. Learn what the Cintas Total Clean program can do for you.
Oh, I'm ready!
Visit Cintas.com and get ready.
Sunny and breezy for this afternoon. We're looking at highs in the lower 80s with a south wind about 10 to 25 and a little gusty at times. Clear skies tonight will drop off to a low in the mid to upper 50s, and another above normal day for Wednesday. Breezy and mostly sunny, highs right around 80. It looks like we'll stay warm through the rest of the week. Remember, you can always find the full forecast at am1100theflag.com. From the Flag Skywatch Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki.
The North Dakota Lottery is giving you the chance to become the Powerball First Millionaire of the Year. 5 Players Club members will each win $1,000 on October 12th. They'll then be entered into a national drawing for a chance at a New Year's Eve celebrated home prize package and be eligible to win $1 million in the Powerball First Millionaire of the Year drawing. Use your Players Club points to enter at lottery.nd.gov or on the mobile app. The North Dakota Lottery. Imagine the possibilities.
Here at AM 1100 The Flag, we love a good deal, and we know you do too. That's why we're so excited about the Flag Big Deals.
Check out the Real Life Women's Conference at the Air Museum October 22nd and 23rd. Featuring guest speakers Susie Larson and Chantel Dudley, also performance by Plum. Save $30 off your ticket price. That's 30% savings at Big Deals.
Visit am1100theflag.com and click on Big Deals.
Bethany Retirement Living is home to independent and assisted living, basic and memory care, short stay rehab, transitional care, and more. We are a safe place of comfort and stability. Passion, quality, and dedicated staff is what makes Bethany the best retirement community 10 years in a row. It's a great place to continue enjoying your passions and discover new ones. Find out how to make your career brighter at Bethany. Reside, relax, rehab. Bethany Retirement Living.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents.
And Doug. Don't you just love the smell of old books? Shh, this is a library. Sorry, ma'am. We're looking for a book titled Liberty Mutual Customizes Your Car Insurance so you only pay for what you need. I don't think we carry that, but check nonfiction. He really does devour literature. Please leave. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
So the dream was to build your very own law practice. Be your own boss, call all the shots. But have things like billing, HR, timekeeping, and all the other management stuff turned your dream into a nightmare? Take charge of your practice with Lexicon. We're the intersection of practice management software and legal support services for your firm. You'll get more billable and livable hours back. Lexicon marks the spot for all your practice management needs. Visit lexiconservices.com/intersection to get the whole story or schedule a demo.
Introducing the most comprehensive and in-depth high school football show ever. Welcome to The Blitz. Each week, we'll have players and coaches interviews, previews of the biggest games in 9-man and 11-man, and feature select regional games and teams from Western Minnesota. A 1-hour show with game day forecasts, special features on players, and interaction from the fans. Join us every Friday night for The Blitz.
Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. I see me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Welcome back to the Chris Berg Show. We got a special guest coming up here in just a moment. And first, as always, I'm going to call into the show 701-271-1100, 701-271-1100. Myrene from Penderlin, welcome to the Chris Berg Show. What's your point of view?
My point of view is the fact that 40 years ago, I was one of these parents that went to the school and complained. I didn't complain. I brought up an issue that I did not agree with what was being taught. And I was politely informed that I have no control over my children once they enter the school. That's their control. I then went to the school board and was informed that in order to appear before the school board, I had to apply. I had to put in what I was going to talk about, and then they would decide if it was applicable. Well, this woman did not step back. I fought it all the way. I got that school board thing changed, and I also got the curriculum changed.
Wow.
The way to have the best schools in North Dakota, and the kid in Grassy Butte and the kid in Fargo, North Dakota deserves exactly the same level of education. The way to be there is to be informed of what's going on, because they'll very easily pull things underneath because the parents aren't informed.
Myrene, thank you so much. This next guest I'm going to bring is actually putting together an education committee for the state of North Dakota to talk about exactly what you're saying. We want to have people across the state that are going to the school board meetings, that are taking notes. We're going to be sharing that with people here on the show, online, things of that nature, so that everybody can know what's being spoken about at these different school board meetings in regards to our kids. I found out this morning, which is stunning to me, that West Fargo, one of the fastest growing school districts in the state of North Dakota, doesn't even live stream or record their school board meetings. I think that is just stunning, and that needs to change. So I'm inviting all of you that are listening to the show, please reach out to the West Fargo School Board and let them know, hey, no mas. You guys need to be recording, live streaming these school board meetings so we know what is being spoken about and what's on the record. Before we bring in our guests, I do want to play with you one quick sound bite because it goes back to what Myrene mentioned. This is so important, folks, where this is Senator Braun from Indiana asking a question to the Secretary of Education, Mr. Give me 1 second because I've got his name here right in front of me. Miguel Cardona. Miguel Cardona, listen closely to this exchange.
Do you think parents should be in charge of their child's education as the primary stakeholder?
I believe parents are important stakeholders, but I also believe educators have a role in determining educational programming.
And I think that's going to be a little out of focus.
It's exactly what Myrene just said there, folks. That was 40 years ago. She mentioned we're going through the same battles today. It is time for you and I to take our power back. They are our kids, not the educators' kids. So very important. Let's bring in our special guest here today because, I mean, Amber, I don't know if you could have had a better lead-in than Myrene's phone call right there, but join us right now. She's the president of North Dakota Conservative Advocates. Check out their website. They're doing incredible things across the state. ndcan.org. Again, ndcan.org. This morning, I was part of their education committee Zoom call, and she's putting this together to find different people across the state that are looking at ways to make sure that we are holding our educators and our school boards accountable. So, Amber, welcome to the Chris Berg Show. It's great to have you. Let's just start with what you're looking to do here with this education committee. What's the impact that you want to make?
Yes, thanks for having me on, Chris. We want to establish local chapters in every school district. We're just getting started, so we're going to start with the larger school districts first, but we want to get advocacy groups started in these school districts, and we want to be able to provide resources to them to help them advocate for their kids and fight for our parental rights, because there's no doubt that parental rights and responsibilities, that they're under attack, and we do have to reassert our parental rights and our parental authority. And so we want to encourage citizens to engage with their local school board, and obviously in a respectful manner, but armed with knowledge and facts and the truth.
So what's your strategy then to help people find out, learn about what's happening across different states, maybe even across the country, so that I feel like if you can get a community of people that are working together to help everybody understand what's going on, it becomes much more powerful and empowering. So do you have any ideas or thoughts or strategies to do that?
Well, there are some national organizations that are already up and running that are providing excellent resources to parents and citizens. And really, I mean, if we can establish local groups, if we can make contact with these parents, there are already groups up and running in many of these cities. If we can connect them to these resources, I think that we can make a huge impact.
Let's talk about your inspiration and your impetus to get this education committee going. I know the first meeting was today. So if you want to speak a little bit about your inspiration behind it, and then also, if you wouldn't mind, because I appreciate you being on this front part of the show, what was the most chilling piece of this National School Board Association letter in your eyes?
Just that the federal government is viewing American citizens as domestic terrorists. That is extremely chilling, but we cannot let that scare us. We cannot let that silence us. We have to continue to reassert our parental rights and our constitutional rights.
So to go back to your, go ahead. I'm sorry, Amber.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what started this just this effort. It started with the origin of North Dakota conservative advocates, and that started when all the COVID overreach was happening, and our kids were being masked, and parents felt helpless, and then we started looking at all of the other government overreach that was happening as a response to COVID-19, and so we realized that conservatives needed their voices amplified, and so that's where we came in, and so we seek to just provide fact-based resources for people, and so that their voices can be heard, and I think that it started off with the mass, but then the more that we focused on our schools, then we realized that there was a lot of toxic ideologies that were sneaking into the curriculums, and I think for a lot of us parents, we were shocked at some of the things that were being taught.
So give us some examples, because you're reading my mind right now. I wanted to ask you, because I know your organization, again, North Dakota Conservative Advocates, is doing just some really, really incredible work. As you've been going out and talking to parents focused on education, what instance or items stand out to you the most? You said, "Oh my gosh, Chris, parents need to be aware that this is happening here in North Dakota."
Yeah, I think the critical race theory is being hidden by the social emotional learning curriculum. I think that we need to really be on top of that, as well as the gender ideology. One of our committee members informed us that that if kids decide they want to change their pronouns at school, that that would be kept hidden from the parents. I know that that's happening in California and Oregon. It may not be happening very much here in North Dakota. I mean, we are still a pretty conservative state, but we cannot assume that it's going to stay that way. I think that we just have to assume that it's on its way here, and so hopefully we can prevent it from going any further.
Amber, one of the biggest things I'm hearing from people, so I want to see if you've got some ideas or suggestions around this, is like you, people are very concerned about the future of the country. And the biggest thing they say to me is, "Chris, I'm so concerned, but I don't know what to do." So as you're going into this world and starting to get more involved in education, what would you encourage people to do to start to make a difference and make an impact?
Yeah, it's really overwhelming when you look at what our country is facing, and it can almost be paralyzing at times. But I think what we have to do is we have to start local, and there is so much that we can do to fortify our state. We have to we have to narrow our focus to protecting North Dakota. And I think one of the ways we do that is getting involved with the local school boards, our city councils, getting involved locally however you can, getting involved in your district, go to the district meetings, get to know your district legislators. There is a lot that we can do, and if you want to go to ndcan.org and sign up for our newsletter, we send out specific calls to action, specific steps that you can take to make a difference.
Again, that's ND, so North Dakota, NDCAN.org. Go check out their website. Amber, one last thing I want to share or visit with you about as well. I was really surprised, I want to get your take on this, when I was in Watford City and we were talking about North Dakota being the freest state in the nation, and people walked up to me, and I didn't expect this. They're like, "Yeah, Chris, school choice. Like, that's the key. We need school choice." It's like, wow, okay, great idea. What's your take on school choice? And what are your ideas on how North Dakota could potentially implement it?
School choice could be huge for us. That is one area where we will be focusing a lot of energy. Currently we spend about $15,000 per student per year in North Dakota, and imagine if that money followed the student instead of the system. That would be so much better for the student, for the parents, and for the teachers, and that would put the power back into parents' hands, into students' hands. And so that is definitely something that we're going to be working towards.
Great stuff. Amber, if you don't mind, would you please give out any contact information or the website again, just so if people want to reach out to you, become part of this committee, the team, and make a difference in education, what can they do?
Yes, they can go to ndcan.org and sign up for our newsletter. You can email me at info@conservativeadvocates.org. And we did just start a Telegram channel. It's North Dakota Conservative Advocates Education Initiative. So we will be providing resources through there.
Great stuff. Again, Amber Vibato, she is the president of North Dakota Conservative Advocates. Again, to give out the contact information, go to ndcan.org. If you care about our kids, email her info@conservativeadvocates.org. And if you're on Telegram, check out North Dakota Conservative Advocates Education Initiative. Great stuff there as we can begin to come together as a community, share great research, great information, and begin to hold our educators accountable. Why is that important? I'm going to tell you after this break, because there's an incredible number here in the Fargo School District that I talked about a while back. I want you to ask yourself for a moment, if you would. Amber, by the way, thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. Great job, and thank you for all you're doing.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for what you're doing too.
Thank you very much. God bless. If I were to ask you right now, if you were to look across the Fargo School District, and I think many of us think, hey, you know what? Our K through 12 education system's pretty good, right? So if I were to ask you from grades 3 through 10, it's the winter of 2021. How many students, or what percentage of students in Fargo do you think are proficient in math? What percentage of students in Fargo do you think this past winter were considered proficient in math? Think about that for a moment. When we come back, I'm going to give you the actual number plus much, much more. The number to call into the show, 701-271-1100, 701-271-1100, right here on The Chris Berg Show.
When it's time to put the hammer down, build with Thor. At Thor Buildings, we'll give you a contract up front and guaranteed that price from start to finish. We specialize in post-frame construction. This means it will cost you less than traditional construction. So whether it's commercial, residential, or agriculture, it's important to us to build a quality product at a price you can afford. Let us bring your building project to life. Go online to thorbuildings.com. So when it's time to put the hammer down, build with Thor.
Trendspin reminds you that it shouldn't take a television series or a Hollywood movie to know, even here in North Dakota, that home security is now a reality. It's more than just package theft. It's proof in injury claims, lawsuits, surveillance, video and still photos, lighting and audio that can make or break a crime stopped or a lawsuit against you proven in your favor, and possibly a discount in your home or business insurance. Trendspin.com. Trendspin, your go-to for all things technology.
I'm North Dakota Soybean Council Director Jennifer Meyer of Wilton. The North Dakota Soybean Council reminds soybean farmers to use soy biodiesel to pump up your bottom line. Biodiesel is a high-quality, clean-burning, renewable fuel produced from domestic resources like soybeans. Biodiesel blends up to 20% can be used in any diesel engine. Biodiesel can offer a number of performance benefits for your diesel engine, including improved fuel lubricity, prevention of premature wear and tear, protection against fuel injector and injection pump failure, less equipment downtime or maintenance costs, and it can be used year-round in all weather conditions. Most importantly, biodiesel increases the value of soybeans by over $1 per bushel. Farmers are encouraged to ask for and use soy biodiesel and diesel equipment. They're your soybeans. Put them to work for you. For more information about biodiesel, visit biodiesel.org.
This message is brought to you by the North Dakota Soybean Council and the Soybean Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Carl Sobek, Dean of the Gary Tharaldson School of Business. At the University of Mary, we're committed to offering all students the opportunity to make a better life for themselves, their families, and their communities. Today's students are tomorrow's leaders, which is why we challenge our students to be difference makers that help make their community a better place. Receive more than just a diploma. Receive an education for life. Get started today at umary.edu/business.
Take a step to the left, take a step to the right, take a step into the Bottle Barn Liquors tonight. The best selection of liquor, beer, and wine at the lowest prices. You'll find them all the time. All with 2 locations, the Bottle Barn is easy to find. Get your party started right at the Bottle Barn Liquors tonight. Hey, the Bottle Barn Liquors, your neighborhood liquor store.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. Ooh. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
I love her voice. Welcome back to the Chris Berg Show. As always, thanks so much for joining us here from 4 to 5 p.m. Number to call into the show. We'd love to hear your point of view. We're talking education today. What can you and I do to take back our kids and restore choice and opportunity within this education system? Number 701-271-1100, 701-271-1100. I'm going to get to a phone call here in just a moment, but first I do want to share the answer with you because I asked you to think about here in the Fargo School District. If I were to ask you grades 3 through 10, what percentage of students do you think were proficient in math in the winter of 2021? Everybody I've asked this question to think, oh, it's got to be 60%, Chris. I don't know, 55 maybe. Folks, the correct answer, this is education system, 27.8%. That is a failing grade, and yet you and I are allowing that to happen with our youth inside of our schools, thus why we need school choice in North Dakota. Let's get to your phone calls. Again, 701-271-1100. Larry from Horace, welcome to the Chris Berg Show. What's your point of view?
Yes, Chris, glad to take my call. Yeah, I've been concerned about education for a long time. Fortunately, we were close enough to Fargo that we were able to send our kids to Catholic school, and they did get a good education there. But one thing that I was thinking about when you were talking with the lady before me, and that is there should be a group of parents go to the teachers' convention that they're going to be holding here in a couple of weeks, because I know that they're going to be working out strategies towards any parental, to fight the parents, in trying to improve the school district. I think, there needs to be a lot of parents going to that and listening and hearing what they are planning on doing.
So can you get us the information on that, sir? We'd be more than happy to share that with the audience. And when you say that they're going to be looking at ways to thwart parental voices, how do you know that? What do you mean specifically?
Well, I mean, I don't know for certain, but I am, just knowing, what the fight that we have to have, I know that they're going to be talking about it. I don't know for specific, but I would be surprised that they would not be addressing that in their meeting.
Well, Sir, thank you so much for calling to the show. We appreciate it very, very much. Always great to hear your points of view. And yes, if we get more information about when that's taking place, obviously, we will let you know. So I want to share some with you.
I would think that the convention is going to be held here within the next 2 weeks, because it's always in the middle of October of every year.
And then is that like just a North Dakota Teachers Convention?
North Dakota Teachers Convention, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Larry, for that. We appreciate it. So North Dakota Teachers Convention, we will get on that, see if we can get some more information. Or Larry, if you want to email us, you can always email me, chris.berg@flagfamily.com. Again, chris.berg@flagfamily.com. I've got about 2 minutes left here. I want to share some with you because I think sometimes people hear about school choice. What is that exactly? I'm going to play for you just a little video to give you some background on this, and we'll continue this conversation at another time. But this is a quick video about what is school choice, what are school vouchers, and how the money can follow your kids.
What is a school choice voucher? A school voucher is a portion of money the state has allocated for a parent to pay partial or full school tuition, including religious and non-religious options. Where does the money come from to pay for vouchers? People in communities pay income taxes, sales taxes, or both. Those funds become the revenue the state uses to pay for education. Now, how do school vouchers work? A parent gathers information about schooling options, then picks the school that uniquely fits her child. Then she visits the school she likes best, and if it's a good fit, she and the school work together to get her child's voucher to pay for tuition. When the parent gets the voucher, she signs it, and that's it. Her child is enrolled. Today, thousands of parents in states across America are using vouchers to access schools that work best for their children. Learn more about those.
So what if we had a curriculum, i.e. the 1776 curriculum, that you wanted to be a part of, and you actually had your property tax money follow your child and take it out of this public system and go to a system that you actually want your kids to be at? Sit with that for the day, because we're running out of time, the show, right? We're running out of time for the show, but very powerful concept as always. Thank you so much for being here at the Chris Berg Show. Check us out again, facebook.com/Chris Berg Show, Twitter @Chris Berg POV. Have a very blessed day. I love you. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Joe Biden is seeking one of the biggest tax increases in history. Now, experts warn these massive tax